You're listening to the Faster Than Normal podcast, where we know that having ADD or ADHD is a gift, not a curse. Each week, we interview people from all around the globe, from every walk of life in every profession, from rock stars to CEOs, from teachers to politicians who have learned how to unlock the gifts of their ADD and ADHD diagnosis and used it to their personal and professional advantage, to build businesses, to become millionaires, or to simply better their lives. And now, here's the host of the Faster Than Normal podcast, the man who doesn't understand how anyone could have leftover pizza, Peter Shankman.
Hey guys, Peter Shankman. Welcome to another episode of Faster Than Normal. Thrilled that you're here. Before we kick off, do me a favor. If you've read the book, I know you have, and you liked it, jump onto Amazon, leave us a review. I get thousands of emails. I've gotten thousands of emails from people who have told me the book has helped them so much. And the number of reviews you have on Amazon, while they're all great reviews, is a lot less than thousands. So shoot an email or shoot a note on Amazon, go to Faster Than Normal, leave a quick review, 5 words, 10 words, 50 words, whatever you want, and let us know what you thought of it. The more people that see those reviews on Amazon or Goodreads, wherever you get your books from, the better chance we have of showing people that ADHD is a gift, not a curse, and I am greatly appreciative. Okay, now that said, we are talking today to Stephen Jurgella. Steve is the founder and CEO of Fountain Forward, a Houston-based firm that brings a different perspective to marketing and advertising. But we're really talking to Stephen because mental health awareness is a close personal cause for him. He's recently been named the Same Here hero for sharing his personal experience. And if you remember what Same Here is, I'm sure Stephen will tell you about that. Stephen's had a lot of experience with bipolar disorder and suicide personal experience. And so I am thrilled and thankful, Stephen, that you took the time to come on the podcast today. I can tell you guys that he is married, he has a wife, he has a Great Dane. He was smart enough to put his wife first in that order before the Great Dane, but he named the Great Dane is named Waldo. I'm assuming the wife's name is Taryn?
That is correct.
Correct. Okay, awesome. So Taryn, Stephen, and the Great Dane, Waldo. Stephen, welcome to Faster Than Normal.
I appreciate it very much. Glad to be here.
No, great to have you. So tell us your story. You were the Same Here hero. And tell us about Same Here because we've talked about that on the podcast before.
So I try to, because I have a very ambiguous mind, I try to keep things as simple as possible. And so I think Same Here, the main thing, the main goal is the actual discussion about the micro details of why somebody feels the way that they do versus giving somebody a statement or a blanket disorder or saying that they're depressed. Actually getting to the micro details, getting down to the cause, so that we can actually put an action step into doing something about it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's great to talk about it, but the action steps are really the things that take it to the next level. No question.
For sure. And
go ahead. No,
So the story's pretty simple. I was born and raised in central Wisconsin, and I was going to be in the golf industry. I went to hospitality and golf management school and got recruited to work in Texas. And then I started my business out of necessity. And the thing that's been the correlation with the mental health battle the entire time is I've built my business. I've built some wealth and I've done these things all out of kind of this basis of insecurity. I have all this energy. And only until I think it's been about 18 months and as I kind of said in my bio, I finally went into, I found the guy, the best doctor in Houston for with regards to mental health. And I just said, I went to my wife, who's a doctor of physical therapy, and she's extremely educated in the industry overall. And I just said, I need to have somebody. I don't want somebody to just I don't want a medication. I just want to figure out what is going on in my brain because, massive manic episodes. And I just always thought I was stressed and then maybe just a little bit, kind of nuts. And then all of a sudden he just looked at me and he goes, yeah, Stephen, you're bipolar and here's what's happening. And I just kind of broke down into tears because I've been going at such an inefficient rate for so long. Because of what I am, and I've only seen it as this problem. And he just looked at me straight in the face and he goes, I don't know what you define as success yet, but if making an imprint on this life and leaving a legacy is success, you're going to be extremely successful. And I just asked him why, and he goes, because your energy is not going to stop no matter, I could give you something to calm down, but that wouldn't be the best thing. You just need to be self-aware and figure out how you're affecting people with all this crazy mania that you have. And for the first time ever, I realized that like my insecurities propelling me and like building this thing, like it was okay. Like like I had a superpower. I just needed to figure out how to deal with pardon my French, the shitty things about it.
And that's, very common for people with ADHD, as well as any sort of neurodiversity, is the fact that we do have superpowers there. We just haven't defined them as such because number one, no one's ever told them that they were. No one's ever told us they were as such. But number two, we've usually focused on the negatives of that.
100. I don't even want to use the word disorder anymore. I'm really getting sick of it. It actually makes me quite emotional when I hear the word, because it's like there are a lot of things that I can do. Going back to like ADHD, like my ability to hyper focus in sports and in presentations in my business when I'm really passionate about it. I am at superhuman levels when I'm in it. And again, before I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I was really competitive and that, I was a decent athlete and I felt like I was a good quote unquote salesperson. But then I started to figure out exactly the kind of the schematics behind what was actually happening in that moment. And I would literally black out. Peter, I would just sit there and I'd black out through a presentation. And people would be like, "Oh man, I love when you did this, this, and this." I have no clue what you're talking about. I got to do that. And he goes, "Dude, check it out. You did." And I'm just so focused in on the moment. I don't even know what's going on in the rest of the world. And like, that is such a superpower.
I've heard it described. I've described it as there was a movie Wanted with Angelina Jolie, yep. where all those people in that group had the ability to sort of slow down time as they saw it, right? They were so hyper-focused that they could slow it down. Remember the kid was trying to catch the knitting needle in the loom or
yep.
the looming needle, and he was able to slow down the super fast thing that was going back and forth to grab it because he was that focused. And that's sort of where we look at it, and that's sort of how we feel it. Problem is, though, until we learn how to handle that superpower, right? Another example that people have used, the greatest American hero, right? He was given this suit from aliens that allowed him to have superpowers, but he lost the instruction book.
Yeah.
Right. So what kind of things, when it started to click in for you and everything you started to realize, okay, this is something that I can use if I know how to do it. What did you learn to do?
Yeah. So first of all, I hired a COO for my company. That was the biggest, huge moment to start. It was about a year ago, and I kept. I genuinely care probably too much at all the time, and so I have this genuine care, but I'm to everything going on around me, and so basically I would make my team ride a roller coaster with me. Does that make sense? And
it does.
Yep. So I'd make them ride my roller coaster. Well, you have to surround yourself with people that are going to be able to fill the holes where I don't have those superpowers. And instead, what I would do is I would just try to like push it via pure effort until one day so the two main things I did is I started journaling. And so I journal nearly every day, and I've already got about 175 pages of documentation. And so I can go back to it and I can, when I'm, going to like the more specifically to like bipolar disorder, like going to like having the highs and the lows, to know that when I'm really, really down, that I can make sure that like, I know that this has happened before, this too shall pass. So that was the first big one. And then the second one is hiring our COO, Jeff Poche, to basically allow me to be this visionary and cast vision and strategy on all of our clients and our team, et cetera. While when I go on these manic episodes and I'm super ADHD and I'm like, pew, 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 I can go on for 10 days at a time. He keeps it on course. So those are the two massive things, it really just like tripling down on the self-awareness to figure out, okay, if you want to positively affect these people, you have got to go all in on what you know is positively affecting them. And then if there are clearly issues that are slowing the progress, you've got to fill in those holes. So that's what I did.
So hire the people that are great at the things you're not great at.
Yep.
Right. Now, what do you tell people who, let's assume that you're not running a company or you can't afford to hire other people to do, I have an assistant, right? She handles my calendar because that's just not something I'm good at.
Sure.
What advice can you give to someone? What else can they do? Or how can they sort of, jerry-rig that to go around, okay, I can't afford to hire an assistant who can handle my calendar. What other things are you doing that you found that benefit you to a lesser degree?
For sure. Practical expectations. I think that's where it starts. Having like and I'm interested in your answer to this. Like, I feel as if, especially when I go into like my creative side, I get super, like when I get super ADHD and I'm going like this, then this, then this, then this. I think what happens, and like I said before, I'd be very interested to see if this happens to you, is like my expectations become so great and so quote unquote unrealistic that and I wrote this down in my notes, like I am unable to weigh my thoughts. And so, going back to expectations and figuring out, okay, I am bad at these things. This is what modern technology can help me, and how practical is my expectations, and setting kind of an outcome goal where it's like, what is enough? So if that person's struggling with organization, I say it all the time. I say, okay, so you're unorganized. Got it. Do you have an iPhone? Oh, you do. Okay, great. Siri is one hell of an organizer. So every time you think of something and you're like, so I'm so ADHD at times that I sit there and I'm like, I will just, hey Siri, oh God, she just listened to me. Hey Siri, remind me to do this at this time. Use the modern technology that's free around you to remind you, and then weigh those thoughts and those tasks that you've put down. I think that's the first thing, but then the other side of it is the expectations. Like, what is practical? Because like I said before, I get lost so many layers deep as to how far I can go with a client or a business or my wife or whatever it is. And you just got to weigh the thoughts and find out where the actual practical next step is. I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but it all comes back to, for me, like what is actually attainable first, and then using like the modern technology that's free around us to pick up where we suck. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's a good answer, because I think that one of the issues that I found myself doing was, I am terrible with remembering things. I would come up with this great idea, and I was like, wow, I gotta remember to write that down when I'm done with whatever it is I'm doing. Of course, when I'm done with whatever it is I'm doing, I've completely forgotten about it. So the concept of using Siri or Alexa for me, or Google Voice, whatever it is, just getting it down. Because some of my best ideas come to me when I'm exercising, and when I was running, I used to keep a little, it was a pen. It looked like a pen. It was actually a voice recorder, sort of like,
Sure.
10 minutes. And then now most of my workouts on my Peloton or riding, and so I use Siri or I use Alexa. But it's you got to get those things down, no matter how much you think you remember. You got to write them down, and then understanding that you're not great at everything, and that's okay. That doesn't make you a terrible person. It doesn't make you less of a father. Nothing like that. We're human beings, right? It makes us a human being, and so the smart human beings are the ones who are able to figure out ways to handle or do the things that we're not very good at. And then finally, of course, as talked about, the concept of putting rules into place in your life to prevent you from going off the rails, whenever needed, I think are the key. So yeah, you and I share some similar ways that we handle that. Let me ask you a question. How you mentioned your wife? What was it like before? Was there a breaking point? How did you get to the point where you're like, okay, where she's not ready to kill you all the time or leave you or whatever? What did you change about yourself? Because at the end of the day, all we can really change is ourselves. We can change ourselves, and we can change our reaction to other people, but we can't change other people, right? Yeah. And so how did you come to the point where you're like, okay, here's what I have to change to make a better relationship with her?
Yeah, this story is not going to be sexy, but I'm an extremely candid person, so I'm going to shoot you straight on it. I became very verbally abusive at times, and I'm trying not to get emotional about it, but I have so much thoughts and so much angst kind of built up in my head, and I'm sure you're well educated on the kind of the catharsis mode when you have a manic episode and you kind of go catharsis mode. My rage mode was pretty brutal, and I just did it too many times at her, and I think the journaling was really the turning point as I looked at, okay, so I am unable to weigh my own thoughts. And so I'm having them move so fast, so quick. But when I'm saying weigh them, I just want to know, like, this is like, I look at the young people that follow me now, or my whether it's my team or whatever it is, and they look and they see a guy that quote unquote has it figured out. I'm like, you have no clue what you're talking about. I just have so much energy at all times to be able to, I'm so inefficient with my time. I am just searching to organize and weigh these thoughts. And And for those that have been close to me in my life, I feel very remorseful for how many times I have had a catharsis at the expense of them and their current emotions. And with my wife, the two things that really turned were, number one, about 2.5 years ago, she was robbed. And she was getting in her car, and a guy came up to her. And I think he had said he had a gun. I don't remember exactly how it was, but they stole her car and they stole her purse. And I got a phone call from her, and I've never heard her, because she's always been overly supportive of me. She takes my feelings first. She's in the middle of the road. She's a very happy person. And so she always puts herself second to me. And for the first time ever, when she was on that call, she was screaming and she was crying. I've never heard her like that before. And I think that was a turning point for me to be able to understand what my life would be like without her. And I never wanted to be without her. So I think that was the main reason. That was the main moment where I was like, I can't wait to marry this girl. Because as I said before, Peter, like my thoughts are moving so fast, and I don't know how to weigh them so often that I didn't even know what she meant to me. Does that make sense? Do I sound crazy when I say that?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I literally didn't know how to weigh that. I didn't know how to weigh my own feelings. Like, that's my biggest battle is now documenting that to make sure that I am building her up and providing more value to her versus using her as, hey, just, I'm going to have this catharsis, and then I'm going to get triggered, and then I'm going to do this. And it becomes just a very one-way thing. And so anyway, so that's really been the stepping stones with her is first of all, just the acknowledgement that I was being a not good person to her. And it was finding a better way for me to deal with those ambiguous thoughts and build her into my progression through those ambiguous thoughts versus throwing them at her and kind of almost blaming her for me feeling that way, because I had no one else to blame, because I just didn't know what thoughts were what.
So what are the steps you take when you feel like you're about to sort of go into that place?
Yep. So the acknowledgement verbally. So I verbally process. So I acknowledge it verbally. So the other day I had one, and I was like, "Hey, can I hear?" And she's like, "Yep, go ahead." And I'm like, "Cool. Record me if you need to, or write down notes if you need to." And then I just go. And so I make sure ahead of time that I let her know that I'm having a really hard time organizing my thoughts right now. I have already tried, breathing exercises, in for 4, out for 8. I've tried a couple minutes of that. It's not working. Can I have a little bit of a verbal process moment with you? And she says, yes, that works extremely well. And then the other one is just a hard workout. Last night, I just went out to my garage where I have an Olympic set, and I just turned on some pretty loud Linkin Park, and I just repped it out, and all of the kind of the wasted energy that I needed to get out so I could fall asleep that night. I just kind of let it out on just try to make my body a little bit better, just lift super hard, and then I will still go and have a little debrief with her, like, hey, I was really angry, and there's this, and this, and I'm just trying to get rid of this cause. Those are kind of my two steps.
Never underestimate the power of Linkin Park for a good workout. No question.
Oh man, crawling last night. Oh my God. And then about to break. Oh my gosh. Yep. I needed it.
Breaking the habit. Yeah, no, totally with you. With you. Yep. Awesome. Stephen Jurgella, how can people find more about you? How can they reach out to you if they want to? I'm on the internet. If you look at my name, I should be one of the few Jurgellas on there. So Stephen Jurgella at Stephen Jurgella, STPHEN. And then, I have my website, jurgella.com. My main thing is if you would like a practical example of somebody that, has done it, started from the ground up and would like to ask a question, I try to give away all my information for free. I believe that I try to build these resources so that I can give them away for free and make people's lives better. Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Stephen, for taking the time. Really appreciate your candidness and your openness. Guys, as always, you've been listening to Fast and Normal. If you like what you hear, feel free to drop us a review. We'd love that. Leave a review for the book, leave a review for the podcast, whatever works for you. ADHD is a gift, not a curse. We are here every week with a brand new episode. We will see you next week. And remember, you're pretty awesome just the way you are.
You've been listening to the Faster Than Normal podcast. We're available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, and of course at www.fasterthannormal.com. I'm your host, Peter Shankman, and you can find me at petershankman.com and at Peter Shankman on all of the socials. If you like what you've heard, why not head over to your favorite podcast platform of choice and leave us a review.
The more people who leave positive reviews, the more the podcast is shown, and the more people we can help understand that ADHD is a gift, not a curse. Opening and closing themes were performed by Stephen Byram, and the opening introduction was recorded by Bernie Wagonblast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.